Sometimes you just need a break from the 9 to 5 and a setting that inspires your imagination in order to get the creative juices flowing. This week, we flew across the country to bring you a deep dive into artist residencies.
So it's great to be here and to be able to play and just feel unfettered.
You share one other bedroom with 6 other bodies, 2 months away from living on the street.
For me, the instruments are the speakers, because they're playing back the music that I've already arranged, and the hall is the forest.
Hello and welcome to CBC Arts Exhibitionists. I'm your host, Amanda Paris. This week, we're talking about artist residencies. They can last for weeks, months, sometimes even years. They can take place in a museum, a woodside cabin, on a boat, or even in the midst of the Rocky Mountains. The details can change, but the purpose remains the same. It's all about giving the artists who are selected space, time, and inspiration. Those 3 ingredients, space, time, and inspiration, allow artists to experiment, to play, to build relationships, and to create. Right now, I'm at Banff Centre for Arts and Creativity, a place that has hosted more than 75,000 artists in residence since 1933. To learn more about what artists do when they're here, I went to visit Svea Ferguson. For the past 5 weeks, Svea has put her life and her job on hold to come here and be an artist in residence at the Banff Centre. Svea is a sculptor, but while here at Banff, she's been stepping outside her comfort zone and experimenting with new mediums. With only 4 days left in her residency, I went to find out what Svea's been up to. This area is nice.
Yeah, this is the lounge area in the ceramics facility.
I feel like everything here is beautiful, though.
Yes, it is very beautiful. It's an amazing place.
So you've been here for 5 weeks.
Yes.
You applied to come, you arrived, you took time off your job,
Yeah.
You have a studio, access to space. But it's not that far away from where you live. You're from Calgary.
Yeah, I'm from Calgary, which is really nice for my work because I'm really materially oriented. So I can just like load all my stuff into a truck and bring it all out here. So I really have like a lot of my studio here with me.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you've been experimenting with?
I've been doing a lot of cyanotype printing. I had done some cyanotypes in the past. When I was here 3 years ago in residence, we did a little workshop, and that's how I discovered cyanotype, which I've loved ever since. This time around, I was actually going back into a lot of my images for like install documents or my process shots when I'm installing work.
So this is like the pictures you take while you're putting up your sculptures.
Yeah, so I might be like, you know, holding something here, you know, to show like if you're at a gallery and you need to install this work, I'm like, okay, these go here, and kind of like holding something and taking a photo of it. These big jugs here.
What are the chemicals?
That is a good question. So they don't become reactive until they're mixed.
Okay.
So wherever you want the image to appear, so I actually have already made some little pencil marks.
Okay. So it's like a race against time.
Yeah, a little bit. So I'm going to gently, keeping it so it doesn't move, bring it onto the exposure unit.
Is this when I pull out my sunglasses?
Yes,
Okay.
Sunglasses time.
Sunglasses.
Perfect. It's very bright.
Okay.
UV light. And look away,
Okay.
because it gets really bright.
Wow, that is really cool. And it's so like weirdly satisfying to see it transform and to see the blue emerge, and I don't know, it's really cool.
I can just like see right away what the result is, and then and just kind of have that immediate knowledge of what the work is gonna.
And it's really beautiful.
I work with a lot of flooring materials, so linoleum and vinyl, rubber kinds of latex. I have a real interest in just sort of regular everyday materials, and particularly with a lot of the linoleum, like how someone might say they just like love ceramics because it's just, they love it. It just is the material.
I love linoleum.
I love linoleum. It just like works. It just has such a wonderful, I don't know, I have a really great relationship with it. It just works for what I'm trying to do.
This is a place that kind of invites you to play and try things out. Are there any things that you tried out that didn't work so well?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, well, I was sort of, there's like this pile of...
This beautiful pile.
This beautiful pile of Mylar. That was like, I was trying to weave like a sack out of it. It was, yeah, didn't work, so that has ended up as this pile that I've left here for a few weeks just to look at, I guess. I like to leave things around because the more you sometimes look at something,
something might come to you.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you're away from your home, you're really able to focus and kind of shut out your other life. The other people that are coming from all over the world with really different backgrounds and different practices. So that's an opportunity that you wouldn't get anywhere else, for sure.
How important is that for you as an artist to have that invitation to experiment and to try new things? And what is it like to try and sometimes fail, but then also learn things in the process?
I mean, often if you're trying to produce work, there's a pressure there to maybe only be working in things that you're more comfortable with, or like to make sure that things are going to be successful because there's an outcome that's expected. So it's great to be here and to be able to play and just, yeah, like feel unfettered. Mm-hmm. Just like have your time and can just do what you want with it.
Kind of sounds like a dream world for an artist.
Yes, it's amazing.
So you leave on Saturday, that is 4 days away. How are you feeling right now about the fact that your residency is coming to an end?
I feel sad. Yeah, it's always hard to think about regular life, going back to regular life after an experience like this. It's a little sad. I always feel like I could use more time, but you know, we had a good run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just try to take that energy with you, I guess.
Totally. Yeah. Keep the momentum going. Yeah, I really want to keep that and get back to work.
Hey guys, are you an artist? Is it hard? I get it. Being an artist comes with its good times. People want you at their parties and you get to eat a ton of samosas. But it's also a bit of a drag not having money, having your uncle tell you that you should have been an actuary, and eventually dying of turpentine fumes and high cholesterol. Fortunately, there are also perks, like artist residencies, places you go and live in a cabin or on a boat. I'm Professor Lees. I have 1 BA, 1 master's, and less than 1 PhD, but I'm qualified enough to tell you about artist residencies. What's a residency? Most often, it's actually pretty literal. Residencies, or a chance to be an artist in residence, are places you have to travel to and live in. A gallery or other organization will bring you to where they are, and you'll make work on site, sometimes alone, sometimes as part of a community. You stay there for a few weeks or a few months, often paid, and at the end of your stay, you'll have a new artwork or even a series, plus a bunch of new friends, and let's face it, usually one enemy. Residencies happen at some of the most magical places in the world. Toronto artist John Sasaki took his time at the Glenfiddich residency to build a plane. That's right, a plane that he flew, at least for a few feet. When experimental musician Maxime Michaud landed in Ceia, Portugal for the Residencia Artística DME, he used his time to listen to all the sounds of the town and the country around it, and built an entire performance from everything he took in. You can even live on a boat. Artist Christopher Boyne spent a residency at sea, traveling from Vancouver to Shanghai in 23 days. It was literally called the 23 Days at Sea residency, and making his work while he spent time on the decks. But beware, the next year, British artist Rebecca Moss boarded the same residency and was stranded for weeks when it was denied docking. Lest you think that's a sign of a not-so-great residency, she kept making work the entire time. Residencies happen from Fogo Island in Newfoundland to a small fishing village for the NES Artist Residency in Iceland, to the heart of the Canadian Rockies at Banff Centre, to working with the Large Hadron Collider at CERN alongside a scientist for the European Organization for Nuclear Research. Yes, you can science and art at the same time. Don't start packing your bags though. You still have to get in. Most residencies require some serious application, a portfolio, even a plan for the work you'll make. A jury of art people will probably make the call. You may have to cough up the funds to get there, even to feed yourself while you're on site. So the financial reward varies pretty widely, as does the phone reception. If you have kids, there are some places that you can bring them and some you can't. Some residencies aren't accessible for those who are differently abled. They're most definitely not one size fits all. Residencies may also give you parameters for the work you're going to make. It might have to fit a certain subject or take a certain shape. And there are deadlines. Always, always deadlines. But if you're adventure inclined, residencies are a great way to escape your tiny studio and expand your point of view. Also, you may get to make out with someone and then never, ever, ever see them again. See you next time for more Art 101.
Phillip has said that every time he reads this poem, it takes a piece of him, and I can understand why. The poem is called Fraction of the Whole, and he performed it while in residency at Banff Centre. Phillip Dwight Morgan is a poet, writer, and activist based in Scarborough, Ontario, who believes that now is the time for people to use their voice. He uses his poetry to speak truth to power.
You are octoroon, no quadroon, no half-breed, no matter. At noon you will be lynched, torn limb from limb, scattered across the streets from dusk till Emmet. You are 5'10", no 6'3", no 6'5", no matter. You are 12 years old but strong as a man, hulking. You will die at 12, 17, 22, 28, 32, or 37. You will be shot 16 times. You cannot call 911. You stole from a 7-Eleven. No, you celebrated 9/11. No matter. You are half monkey, half-witted, ideas half-baked. What did you say, boy? You share one other bedroom with 6 other bodies, 2 months away from living on the street. You are a third-time offender in a carceral state, 10 to 15 years, cell 6 by 8, no windows. No windows. And somehow,
Coming up, I'm taking you to a digital coven in the woods, but instead of witches, you'll be surrounded by speakers.
To make music that speaks about this place, it only makes sense that they interact a little bit with each other.
I'm a city kid. I was born in London, moved to Toronto, spent some time in New York. Needless to say, my world is dominated by concrete jungles, and my time in forests has been minimal, to say the least. But the composer you're about to meet has been fascinated with nature since he was a kid. Jonathan Kawchuk has managed to incorporate his passion for nature and the woods into his craft. For his latest album, Jonathan recorded music in his studio, but instead of playing that music in a concert hall like this one, John travels an hour into the forest to get away from any human activity. He then plays his music on speakers in the woods and re-records it, picking up any other sounds that the forest offers up. It's an elaborate process, but when I was standing there listening to his music, this city girl felt like she was in the midst of something so incredibly profound and sacred. Check it out. And what are we gonna hear? Are we gonna hear like birds chirping, or what are the sounds that you're hoping to capture?
We're hoping to capture just the way that sound bounces around a forest, sort of the same way sound might bounce around a cathedral and echo and reverberate. We're trying to do the same thing with music all around us in this environment.
So thank you so much for welcoming me here. This place is so awesome. So you're here in residency, working on your second album, but I kind of want to start at the beginning. So can you tell me about what it is that fascinates you so much about making music in the forest or with the forest?
Yeah, music has always just been a way to talk about what's important to me, like any other medium. And to make music that speaks about this place, it only makes sense that they interact a little bit with each other. Hearing familiar sounds like music in an environment like this kind of reveals a little bit about both that environment and those sounds. So this project in some ways is to capture the sound of the space, both kind of literally and then also the sound of what this place feels like in a more musical sense. Like a documentary filmmaker might try to preserve a space. I guess I'm trying to do the same thing because I think these places are worth preservation.
So you're preserving the sound of a place in a way. Would that make sense?
And like the feeling, I hope.
Okay.
How it feels to me.
What about this is going to sound different from if it was recorded in a studio or if it was recorded in a concert hall? How is it going to sound different for me?
The concert hall analogy is actually a really good one. When you go into a nice cathedral and you hear a classical concert or something, you have the instruments and then you also have the space that's echoing. For me, the instruments are the speakers because they're playing back the music that I've already arranged. And the hall is the forest. And it's going to be a lot more subtle and maybe a little bit more subconscious than something as lush as a cathedral. But hopefully it will sound to you like it sounds when you're out there on your own anyway.
Can you talk a little bit about how this process has affected your own relationship with nature?
Yeah, I had to do quite a bit of research. I've talked to Parks Canada and acoustic ecologists and a bunch of people who are familiar with the area just to make sure what I am doing here isn't damaging. And I learned a lot about this place, not the least of which is how heavily this particular place is being affected by a changing climate and other environmental factors. And it seems more urgent to me, this record, than the last one, because of that.
Okay, so you have a speaker here, over there. Okay, so this looks incredible. Tell me about the setup that you've done.
Yeah, it looks complicated, but it's pretty simple. We just have a ton of speakers around us.
In a circle.
In a circle.
Yeah.
To surround us with sound. And then we have one microphone for every speaker, of which there are 7. And then 4 microphones sort of picking up what's happening in the air when all these sounds kind of bounce around the trees and hit each other and echo around.
Okay, and then when you do this setup, how long will you stay in the forest recording? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, not too long. Okay. We're confined by battery power and daylight mostly. Dusk and dawn are not extremely safe times in the Rockies, so we have to do our hours-long setup at daybreak, record as much as we can, or as much as our battery allows, and tear down all before nightfall.
Right. Have you ever had any scary or almost scary encounters?
No, other than a raccoon that I thought was a bear. It's been pretty tame.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Shall we begin?
Yeah. Yeah, let's.
Okay.
My friend's just gonna hit play and we'll have a listen.
Okay, great.
Cool. the way this place feels to me is so important, and these places are so important to me, and they are really threatened. And I think documenting not only how they actually are, if that's even possible, but how they feel to us is really important in case that isn't something that can be experienced again.
If there's an artist you think should be on CBC Arts Exhibitionists, or if you just want to share your own experiences of artist residency with me, I'd love to see it all. Send me a message on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Our handle is @CBC Arts. Tune in next week when we return to our almost as beautiful studios, where we'll be doing another deep dive into the fascinating work of Canadian artists. Peace.